Carlo Reyes stood at the free throw line of the NBA training facility in Los Angeles. His hands were shaking, not from fear, from anger. Around him, 5 NBA scouts sat with clipboards. They weren't even watching anymore. They were laughing. "How tall are you again?" one scout called out, smirking. 5'9". Carlo answered, his Filipino accent clear. The scouts exchanged glances. One of them, a heavy-set man named Dave Morrison, didn't even bother hiding his grin. "Kid, let me save you some time," Morrison said, standing up. "The NBA isn't for guys like you. You're too short. And honestly, Filipinos play street ball, not professional basketball. This is the big leagues." Carlo felt his chest tighten. He'd flown 18 hours from Manila, spent every peso his family had saved, trained for 3 years straight for this one chance. His father had worked double shifts at the factory. His mother sold food at the market, though, so he could be here. "Give me one drill," Carlo said quietly. "Just one." Morrison laughed. "One drill? Fine. Entertainment break, boys. Let's see you guard him." He pointed to a 6'5" player warming up nearby, a college All-American named Travis being scouted for the first-round draft. The other scouts chuckled. One pulled out his phone to record. This was comedy now. Carlo walked onto the court. Travis looked down at him literally. "You sure about this, little man? I don't want to hurt you." The scouts laughed harder. What happened next, nobody expected. The whistle blew. Travis drove left, confident, powerful. Carlo stayed with him, footwork perfect. Travis tried to post him up, using his size at strength advantage. Carlo read the move. Stripped the ball cleanly with lightning-quick hands. Fast break. Carlo's speed was explosive. He crossed half-court in seconds, defenders scrambling. Euro-step left, crossover right. Finished with a reverse layup that kissed perfectly off the glass. Swish. The gym went quiet. Morrison stood up slowly. "Lucky play. Run it again." They ran it 5 more times. Carlo scored 4 times. Stole the ball 3 times. Made no-look assists that had even Travis shaking his head in respect. His court vision was unreal, his speed unstoppable. But when the drill ended, Morrison walked over with the same smirk. "You're good for your size," he said, arms crossed. "But the NBA is about size, kid. You'd get destroyed out there against real athletes. We can't use you, sorry." The other scouts nodded, already packing up their things. "Plus," another scout added casually, "Asian players just don't have what it takes at this level. It's genetics." Carlo stood there, sweat dripping, lungs burning, heart breaking. "Go back to the Philippines," Morrison added, not even looking at him. "Play in your local leagues. That's where you belong. Be realistic." 3 days later, Carlo sat in his cramped apartment in Manila, watching NBA highlights on his phone. His younger sister Maria found him there, eyes red, jaw clenched. "They rejected you?" she asked softly, sitting beside him. Carlo nodded, unable to speak. "What are you going to do now?" Carlo looked at the worn basketball in the corner of his room. The same ball he'd practiced with since he was 7. The ball his father gave him. Then he looked at his sister with fire in his eyes. "I'm going to prove them wrong," he said. "I'm going to make them regret every word." "How?" Carlo stood up, grabbing the basketball. By doing what they said was impossible. What Carlo did next would shock the entire basketball world and change the game forever. Carlo didn't sleep that night. He couldn't. Morrison's words echoed in his mind. "Go back to the Philippines. That's where you belong." The next morning he was in the gym at 5 a.m. The same cramped community court in Manila where he'd learned to play. Cracked concrete, pinned rim, no nets. But it was his court, his home. Maria found him there 3 hours later, drenched in sweat. "Carlo, you need to rest," she said. "I can't," he replied, not stopping his dribbling drills. "Every second I rest, they're right about me." Over the next 6 months, Carlo did something nobody expected. He didn't just train harder. He trained smarter. He bought every NBA game reporting he could afford. Studied film 16 hours a day. Not casually, obsessively. He broke down every point guard under 6 feet, but never succeeded. Muggsy Bogues, Isaiah Thomas, Nate Robinson, Frame by frame, he analyzed their footwork, their defensive angles, how they used speed to compensate for height, how they made taller players uncomfortable. But Carlo didn't just copy. He innovated. He realized something Morrison and those scouts didn't understand. In basketball, the lowest man has the advantage. Now 7-footers bend down to dribble. He was already low. His center of gravity wasn't a weakness. It was a weapon. He practiced getting under taller players, disrupting their dribbles from angles they couldn't defend, using his speed not just to go around them, but to create chaos they couldn't handle. Word spread in Manila basketball circles. That kid who got rejected by the NBA is training like a madman. Then came the call that changed everything. Coach Rodrigo Santos from the Philippine Basketball Association had been watching Carlo play in local leagues. The kid was dominating. 40 points one game, 20 assists another, 15 steals the next. Carlo, Coach Santos said over the phone, I want you to try out for the PBA. The PBA wasn't the NBA, but it was professional. It was a chance. It was a step. The tryout was brutal. 50 players competing for 3 roster spots. Most were 6'3", 6'5". All of them looked at Carlo the same way Morrison had, like he didn't belong. During scrimmages, they targeted him, posting him up, using size against him, testing him. But Carlo had spent 6 months preparing for exactly this. The first time a 6'6" forward tried to post him up, Carlo read the move before it happened, stripped the ball clean, fast spring, layup. The second time, same result. By the end of tryouts, Carlo had the most steals, highest assist rate, and fastest sprint times of any player there. Coach Santos didn't hesitate. You made the team. 3 months into the PBA season, Carlo was still coming off the bench. Limited minutes. The team's veteran players got priority. Carlo understood. He was a rookie. He had to earn it. But in Game 12 everything changed. The starting point guard went down with an ankle injury in the third quarter. The team was losing by 15 points. Coach Santos looked down the bench. Carlo, you're in! Carlo's hands shook as he checked into the game. This was his moment. 6 months of obsessive training. 6 months of proving everyone wrong. It all came down to this. The opposing team saw him enter and smiled. Their center actually laughed. They're putting in the tiny guy? Game over. What happened in the next 8 minutes would shock the entire arena and change Carlo's life forever. Carlo exploded. First possession. He stole the ball at half court. The opposing center trying to react, but Carlo was already gone. Layup. Down by 13. Second possession, he forced a turnover. Fast break. Assist to his teammate. Down by 11. The opposing team called timeout. Their coach was yelling, trap him. Double T. Don't let him breathe. But Carlo had spent 6 months studying how to break traps, how to see passing lanes before they opened, how to use his low center of gravity to slip between defenders. Third possession after timeout, they sent 2 defenders at him. Carlo split them like they were standing still, drew the third defender. Nola passed to the corner, 3-pointer down by 8. The arena was getting louder. The fans were standing. They'd never seen anyone move like this. Fourth possession, Carlos stole the ball again. This time from the same center who'd laughed at him. The big man tried to protect the ball, but Carlos' hands were too quick. He stripped it clean, went coast to coast between 3 defenders. Eurostep. Reverse layup. Down by 6. The opposing coach was screaming now. His players looked confused, exhausted. They couldn't keep up with Carlo's pace. Fifth possession. Carlo didn't even touch the ball. He ran the floor so fast, created so much chaos with his movement, that his teammate got an easy dunk. Down by 4. The crowd was roaring. Carlo's coach was on his feet, pumping his fist. 2 minutes left. Carmen pulled the ball up. The defense collapsed on him all. 5 players focused on stopping the tiny point guard who was destroying them. Carlo smiled. This was exactly what he wanted. He drove left, drew 4 defenders. At the last second, ramped a pass around his back to his teammate cutting to the basket. Easy layup. Down by 2. 1 minute left. Tie game after a quick exchange of baskets. The opposing team had the ball. Their point guard tried to run the clock. But Carlo was everywhere, pressuring, disrupting, his hands flashing. Finally, with 30 seconds left, he tipped the ball away, dove on the floor, came up with it. Time out. Coach Souters called him over. You've got them on their heels, the coach said. Take the last shot. Win or lose, it's yours. Carlo nodded. 6 months ago he was crying in a Manila apartment. Now, he was about to take the biggest shot of his life. The play started. Carlo dribbled at the top of the key. 15 seconds. The defense was all over him. 10 seconds. Carlo drove right. 3 defenders converged. 5 seconds. He stopped on a dime. Step back move. Tall defender flying past, completely off balance. 2 seconds. Carlo rose up. The shot sounded perfect, leaving his hands. 1 second. Swish. The arena erupted. Fans stormed the court. His teammates mobbed him. Carlo disappeared under a pile of celebrating players. When he finally emerged, he saw the opposing center, the one who'd laughed, walking off the court with his head down. Carlo had scored or assisted on 18 points in 8 minutes. But the real victory wasn't the points. It was proving that height doesn't measure heart. After the game, Carlo's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. The highlights were going viral. Not just in the Philippines, worldwide. Then came the call he'd been waiting for. Is this Carlo Reyes? The voice had an American accent. Yes, Carlo answered, his heart pounding. This is Marcus Thompson, scout for the NBA G-League. We've been watching your tape. That performance tonight. We want to offer you a contract. Carlo's hand trembled. Where? He managed to ask. Los Angeles. The same city where Morrison had rejected him. The same facility where they'd laughed at him. Carlo looked at Maria, who was listening with tears in her eyes. When do I start? Carlo asked. What happened when Carlo returned to Los Angeles would shock everyone who ever doubted him. 6 weeks later, Carlo walked into the same NBA training facility in Los Angeles where his dream had died. But this time everything was different. He wasn't a hopeful dreamer anymore. He was a G-League player with a contract. He'd earned this. The facility looked exactly the same. Same polished floors. Same pristine courts. Same scouts sitting with clipboards. And there in the middle of them was Dave Morrison. Carlo's heart stopped. Morrison was evaluating G-League players for potential NBA call-ups. He didn't recognize Carlo. Why would he? He'd dismissed hundreds of players over the years. All right, let's see what we got, Morrison called out, not even looking up from his clipboard. Height check. You number 7, how tall? Carlo stepped forward. 5'9". Morrison's head snapped up. For the first time he really looked at Carlo. His eyes narrowed, trying to place him. Have we met before? Morrison asked. Yes, Carlo said simply. You told me to go back to the Philippines. That Filipinos play street ball, not professional basketball. The gym went silent. Every player, every coach, every scout stopped and stared. Morrison's face turned red. He remembered now. The Filipino kid he'd mocked. The one he'd rejected without a second thought. That was you? Morrison stammered. Carlo nodded. You said I was too short, that I'd get destroyed. You laughed at me. Morrison opened his mouth and closed it. What could he say? He'd been wrong. Completely, utterly wrong. I've watched your tape from Manila, Morrison finally said quietly. That performance. 18 points in 8 minutes. I've never seen anything like it. You could have, Carlo replied, his voice steady but without anger. 6 months ago, but you didn't give me a chance. You judged me before I even played. Morrison looked down, shame visible on his face. The head G-League coach stepped forward. All right, let's see what you've got. Run the drill. They ran it. Carlo was even better than before. Faster, smarter, unstoppable. When it ended, the gym erupted in applause. Morrison walked over, his voice shaking. I owe you an apology. I was wrong. Completely wrong. Carlo looked at the man who'd crushed his dreams. He could have been angry, bitter. Instead, he smiled gently. Thank you, Carlo said. Morrison looked confused. For what? For teaching me the most important lesson, Carlo replied, that the only limits that exist are the ones we accept. You didn't believe in me, so I had to believe in myself. You rejected me. So I had to prove, not to you, but to myself, that I belonged. You gave me a gift, even if you didn't mean to. Morrison's eyes filled with tears. You're a better man than me. No, Carlo said kindly. I'm just someone who learned that our worth isn't measured by others' expectations. It's measured by our own heart. 3 months later, Carlo stood on an NBA court. Full roster, full contract, living his dream. But the moment that mattered most came after the game. In the tunnel he found his father waiting, the man who'd worked double shifts so Carlo could chase his dream. His father didn't say anything. He just pulled Carlo into his arms and cried. I'm sorry I ever doubted, his father whispered. You never did, Carlo replied, holding him tight. You sacrificed everything so I could believe. Maria was there too, tears streaming down her face. You did it, Kuya. You really did it. Carlo looked at his family. At the worn basketball his father had given him, now framed on his locker. No, he said softly. We did it. Every person who believed when the world said no. Every sacrifice made. Every prayer whispered. This isn't my victory. It's ours. Years later, when young Filipino kids would ask Carlo how he made it, he'd always tell them the same thing. The world will measure you. They'll say you're too short, too small, too different. But measurements don't matter. What matters is this. He'd point to his chest. The size of your heart, the strength of your belief, the courage to prove not to them, but to yourself, that you belong wherever you dare to dream. And he'd smile, remembering the boy who cried in the Manila apartment, and the man who learned that sometimes our greatest defeats become our greatest teachers. Because in the end, success isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right.